Welcome back to 8 Cubes. This week I am joined by Smiles, a high infinite grinder who you may know from the Snap Academy YouTube channel. Let's take a little bit of time to get to know him. Who are you? Why should anyone ever listen to you? Just tell them some of your credentials. Tell them what you've done in this game.
Hi everybody, I'm Smiles from the Snap Academy YouTube channel. You may probably know me from a lot of my decks that have been featured on KMBest's channel. The most recent Surfer one with the Wolverine that has kind of been pretty popular. That's mine. You also may have seen me on Ladder with a variety of different nicknames. Right now it's the Boss Baby. And yeah.
Before that, it was Rat Who Is Ballin', I believe. And
Rat Who's Ballin'.
Several variations of the words Smiz, Smiles, Smaz, various corruptions of the name. This guy's been around. And he's here today to fill in for Lambie Series. These are big shoes, but we have a pretty complex card to talk about today to start things off, which is Punisher War Machine, which is one of the absolute weirdest cards I've ever read. When you draw it, it marks a location. That location, you have an objective to win. If you have won that location and Punisher War Machine is on the board, you will get +1 energy. And what I find so weird about that is if you draw him on like the first, like you draw him in your opening hand or in the first turn of the game, can you pre-win that location? Every other objective you can pre-do. Like I can skip turn 1 and 2 and Storm will be active if I draw her on 3. If I win that location on 1 and then play Punisher on 2, am I just getting energy the entirety of the game?
I'm not sure what the function of this card is, but I'm not too sure that's necessarily going to matter.
Really?
I think this card is actually going to be pretty good.
Okay.
But the fact that it lands at a 2/2 stat line makes it really unwilling to play before realistically, say, turn... you're not playing this after really turn 3. So what I'm kind of like looking at with this card is I'm looking at the introduction of Daredevil into the ramp deck, and that's giving you another 2 to play on 2. You've also got Chamber in that deck, so you've already got 2 ways to realistically win the Punisher lane, either playing him on 2, or I think in most cases on 3, to be honest, if you don't have one of Luna Snow or Electro to actually ramp out in that sense. So I think that it's a really good third ramp option, and that's something that Ramp has been looking for a long time. With only 2 kind of enablers in Electro and Luna Snow, it can get a little bit tricky. I know I was running Superior Spider-Man in there and Ramp for a bit, but I think that getting that third enabler and also getting it into a world where it's actually pretty consistent on curve, considering Daredevil is giving you 1-drops. You can go like 1-drop like a Demon plus Punisher War Machine on turn 3 to win the lane and like further cement it with your 5-power Daredevil in there. I think it's just a pretty strong card, and it's a more consistent ramp option than people think it's going to be, just because Daredevil really fits with it kind of in this good way on curve. And also, although Daredevil dilutes your deck, you're now getting a third ramper, so it's more likely you're going to get it anyways.
I'm going the other way on this. I think that what I want to do with this is play it in 75 different virus decks. I want to put this in my Martyr deck. I want to play Martyr and then play this and then just like, I don't care. I don't care that it's a 2/2 body because I'm virusing it. It's going to be like 5 points by the end of the game. I'm using that extra energy so I can keep virusing more stuff. I am just going to do output, and I have this card that is helping me increase the output of this deck. I've been playing a lot of like weird virus garbagey decks recently, right? They're all like fine. But one thing that really sticks out is like, I would really love some extra energy basically every single turn. I would love to be able to put more cards on the board. I would love to be able to Mother Escani my Ozymandias and also play other cards. I would love to be able to just like do things with my output here that I'm not necessarily sure are in the range. So rather than being a third ramp card in the ramp deck, which I don't think is like an incorrect direction for this to go, I think that it kind of makes a lot of sense as just an output increaser in the decks that are playing something like Martyr already. In a weird way, that 1/6 Martyr buff feels like a really big upgrade, not just to this, but to the virus decks. And it's been like quite a card recently in ways that the card has never been playable before because of virus and because of being a 1/6. And I think that if anything is going to make this card function, this Punisher War Machine card, it's going to be having Martyr in your deck. It's going to be having Debris in your deck. It's going to be having Wilson Fisk in your deck. It's going to be that stuff. And if you can get the Martyr down, you can take a turn off. You know, you can go like Martyr this and then Wilson Fisk, because you're still probably going to you're going to have that 6. You're still probably going to have the strongest guy. I don't know. I'm fairly compelled by this card in specifically that space.
I also think that space is something interesting to look at. I think what another just Virus falls into this, but another kind of similar vein that these cards are going to fall into is we see Luna Snow seeing a lot of play in these kind of like tempo decks, and that's just 3/6 generic ramp.
Yep.
2/2 generic ramp that doesn't necessarily have a downside. Probably something we also want to be investing in, especially if we're running those high cost tempo cards. I agree with your assessment there. As for like a massive upgrade over the Punisher War Machine deck, maybe the Ozymandias version, it's a large upgrade. I think that in general, though, we may start to see that list. My question with the list is how many high curve payoffs do we really have? Like, is it just we're always running Ozymandias, Debris, Rhino? Like, what is the actual value in the ramp? Is it just like we're only doing this for Ozymandias, and that's the main thing?
It's so we can do like card plus tech card in the versions I've been playing. The idea is just like, if I have that extra energy, I can play my 4/11 Mother Escani to Ozymandias and then also a Shadow King or a Cosmo or something like that. Like, that's always what it is for me, is like, if I have some things that are doing output related things, having that extra energy to make sure I can also do something that stops my opponent from comboing off is usually something I'm interested in. And because this card is so open-ended and isn't specific enough to be like, you're always going to have this, so you build a game plan around it, I feel like it needs outputs that are like modular. It needs to have like a bunch of different things it can do, rather than having like, I'm running this to be what Psylocke is. Psylocke is always doing the thing she does, and you only play her if you need the thing she does really badly. This guy's inputs are so inconsistent that his outputs are naturally going to be inconsistent too.
Yeah, I like the comparison with Psylocke, where Psylocke is it's a very narrow card in use. Like, you're old, like, for example, the most recent time Psylocke Star play was when Star-Lord got moved to 5 costs. You can play him on 4 now, and you have 2 ways of playing him on 4 with Luna Snow and Psylocke. I think we'll see a little bit more generic stuff with Punisher War Machine, but I also, like, I've seen people throw around this card in the idea of like a super giant deck that I kind of want to push back on, because I'm like, I know you're getting cryo a lot of the time, but you can't really take.
You can't play it 2/2, dude. You can't play it 2/2.
That's bad. I think it's definitely good in these like virus style decks that aren't necessarily trying to. They have this like set turn where they need the prio and they need they use high stat cards, but they can sometimes like subsidize that with like the virus's points. Like, I know in my preferred virus deck, I'm running Black Swan to get the demons down to a 0 cost, and that's how I'm kind of using my extra energy curve, because I don't have the extra +1 from Punisher War Machine. So yeah, I overall though do think that this is going to be a good card, and at least much better than Karen Page.
Karen's a few topics away, but Daredevil, the Shadowlands version, that is, has already seemingly worked his way into your vocabulary. You mentioned Daredevil many times in the previous conversation. At no point did it even consider to cross your mind that you should specify that it was like Shadowlands Daredevil, because the other Daredevil is so irrelevant that it doesn't even matter. Like, everyone knows that it's Shadowlands Daredevil. It doesn't even process that it's like, oh yeah, there's actually another Daredevil, because this one's the good one. This is the one that like is doing things that are powerful. My instinct on Shadowlands Daredevil, 2/3, with an effect that shuffles 3 demons into your deck on play, and when you draw anything with 6 or more power, it gains 2 power. I think this is a strong card. I think that it is pretty clearly a card that is strong, and the big question for it is, can it fit a metagame like this? Because a good stat stick needs to be backed up by tech, and this is a card that makes you have less reliable access to your tech. If you are just playing him for stats and doing virus stuff, and, you know, that's all cool, you need like 3 tech cards in that deck to feel good about being able to interact with whatever your opponent is doing. And if you don't have the right ones, you're out of here. So overall impressions on Daredevil is, I think he has passed the stat check. I do not know that he has passed the vibe check. And I think that second one is also pretty important.
Yeah. The main thing that I want to touch on with Shadowlands Daredevil is I want to compare him to a season pass card from last year, an Agamotto, another card that shuffles cards into your deck. So the main kind of point of contention is that what Agamotto did was Agamotto kind of leveraged a lot of the best generic cards and kind of multiplied their point output with stuff like Images of Icon.
Galacta, yeah,
Gwenpool Galacta, all that stuff. We are no longer in the point where like generic points is enough, but we do have the generic tech, and the generic tech in this game can be very strong. Look at cards like Shadow King, cards like Cosmic Ghost Rider, cards like Stardust, a lot of like generically powerful tech cards, and 2 of those 3 cards are also above 6 power. So what I found Daredevil to be is I found Daredevil to kind of be the enabler of like this stats and tech pile that we haven't really seen in a long time, really since the Techpocalypse. So I think Daredevil is kind of like the bridge, as it's a package where you can, if you can identify your matchup early, like say on turn 3, it's past Storm Horseman of Famine. Then you're like, okay, I need my Shadow King. And I draw Daredevil on 4. I might not play the Daredevil in attempts to like, I need to draw my Shadow King first. But if I draw the Shadow King, then I'm like, okay, I can start playing Daredevil and start moving through that. Like one of the, in my deck, I run Stardust in the Shadowlands Daredevil deck. And if I'm playing against, say, somebody who I know is going to be playing Hela, I won't play Daredevil until I've drawn Stardust. And then after I draw Stardust, I'm like, okay, I can play Daredevil and get my points going because I have a Stardust in hand. And I know that's all I need to win the matchup.
High Infinite is so ridiculous because you can say someone who I know to be playing Hela, and I know you're talking about Denish. Like, I know there's only really one person you could be possibly describing there. Next up is Wilson Fisk, who I feel like was just the world's most obvious, this guy is pretty good, and then he came out and he was pretty good. Like, there's not even like a lot of like back patting I can do for myself, and everyone who watches this knows I love to do that. Like, I can't be like, yeah, I'm amazing, I told you this is what Wilson Fisk was going to be, and that's what he's going to be, because it's like, I feel like a blind man could have told you that's what Wilson Fisk was going to be. He's a 3/9. You play him in your tempo decks. That's what he does. And if those are good, he's good. And if those aren't good, he's not good. He's just a sort of great card in a very specific archetype that I honestly think is getting a lot more play than I would have expected. Like, I see this guy in the Virus decks. I see him in Supergiant decks. I see him, like, there's just a shocking amount of just, like, here's my random mid-range point pile. And, like, Wilson Fisk is going in them. Martyr is in those decks. There's just a lot of, like, weird Wilson going on right now. I would say that I am probably a little higher on him than Daredevil because, unlike Daredevil, he may not have as high of a ceiling, but his floor is so much higher. He is never a card you're going to have to worry about. You just play him out there. He's a 3/9 like the vast majority of the time. And if you have not built your deck such that he is a 3/9 in those situations, well, buddy, you're probably just retreating anyway, because your whole deck is kind of predicated on having that ability to happen and making sure you're the guy who's going to be ahead, and you are probably in a retreat angle regardless. So he's just kind of been stellar for me in this context.
Yeah, I mean, one card that I want to like pre-Wilson Fisk release, Debris was a card seeing a lot of pickup and play. And that was largely because it was just a 3/8. Yes, it worked with Ozymandias, but it was also seeing play in decks kind of without Ozymandias, these like early iterations of the Virus deck after the buff to it. So I think that Wilson Fisk just literally being a point higher than Debris, but with no downside, is just kind of like no brainer. Like, wow, this card is good. Shocker, the 3/9 with no downside. I think like 3-cost stat sticks as a whole have historically been pretty good throughout Snap and are even kind of better now. I think now that Shadow King is such an effective tech card, being able to just go 3 plus SK on the final turn of the game, just really good. I mean, the 3 main, I would say, stat sticks, because Gladiator doesn't exist anymore, are Starbrand, which you'll see in some kind of capacities of the Virus deck, Debris, and Fisk. And Fisk is just the best out of those 3, I think, just because, like, look at the drawbacks. The other 2 have notable drawbacks. Debris can be mitigated pretty easily, though.
I think you'd argue Debris is kind of upside if you're virusing. It's like kind of upside. It's not like the greatest thing in the world, but it's like kind of.
It's culpable upside.
Yeah, it exists.
It's not like awful. Like it's like a 3/8.1.
Right, but it is like it's a number. Like you're getting something out of there.
But I mean, Fisk is just 3/9. You just need to realistically. One of the things that I think is interesting with Fisk is that a lot of the 2 costs that see a lot of play are 2/3. Think of like Iron Patriot. Think of like Askani Sun. And Fisk is just works on ties. So if you both play a 2/3 and you play Fisk, you're kind of just winning, especially because the 2 drops really want prio. Again, Iron Patriot and Escani Sun, those are 2 cards that really want you to win their lane, and Fisk is just kind of the best supporter and like all-star in doing that.
So behind the curtain, we normally try to do like 4 minutes a segment, right? And we did like 8 minutes on our first topic here, Punisher War Machine. And the reason I wasn't really pressed about that is because I kind of feel like we're going to do 30 seconds on Karen Page here. Karen Page is not good. Do you have any like additional commentary on that? Do you want to like dive into why she's not good, or do you want to just trust our audience that a 411 in 2026 is not cutting it?
I mean, let's just compare this card to Wolverine Horseman of War. I'm looking at a 415 versus a 411, and the 415 doesn't require me to curve out.
Also, if I mother Escani the 415, it instantly turns on. And yeah, that seems really good. This seems really not good. And Wolverine himself is pretty fringy in the decks he goes in. I think he's like a viable option. I quite enjoy him as like a... I guess the right way to phrase it is like, I have never correctly played around double Wolverine in my entire life, nor will I ever correctly play around double Wolverine in my entire life. And so it's just like one of those things where you just like throw a curveball out of nowhere sometimes. And I do like him for that.
I think it's a lot better in the deck than people are kind of talking about. I think people... I don't think it's as easy of a cut as some people may insinuate, but Karen is bad. I don't think we need to talk anymore about that.
Yeah, we just decided to talk about a more interesting 4-drop instead. Mother's Day yesterday, and also every day as long as Mother Escani exists in her current form. That is a redonkulous card. I know you have, let's say, a take on how good she is that will get people to throw tomatoes at you, so please, go ahead.
I think Mother Escani is... Well, I'll just put it this way. I think Mother Escani is like definitely better than every card nerfed in the major OTA 2 OTAs ago, except maybe it's on the same level as Shao Lao at 5/6. I think that one is close. I
think that it's worth clarifying, like, you mean them as they existed in that OTA, so people aren't like, yeah, it's better than release Star-Lord, because it's not.
It's the best card in the game right now.
I think it's... I don't know if I think it's, like, the best card in the game so much as it's just, like, the only thing that's letting us do what we've done for the last 5 months. Like, if you got rid of Mother Escani decks, what would we even be comboing with? We'd just be doing something incredibly embarrassing, like Frigga.
I think we'd just be playing Virus the whole time then.
Just be like playing...
That's so many points.
We'd be in 2024 Marvel Snap. We'd be playing stat sticks and stuff. And I know there's people who are out there who are like, please bring it back. But I do think that, like, yeah, she is sort of like the last bastion of the copy era of Marvel Snap. Invisible Woman First Steps got taken out behind the woodshed. All the like Wong Gambit people, woodshed. I'm copying Mr. Fantastic with Prodigy, woodshed. Now all we have, Sholau and Star-Lord, not even to talk about them. Now all we have is like this, and then we're back in like Hella's the biggest thing you can do. It's like it's a very precarious existence for Mother Escani, because I think that relative to her cohort, I think she is probably more powerful than those cards. But relative to those cards, I do not. Like, relative to what those cards were, I think she is worse. I think she would be third place behind those decks if they both existed at the same time. But they don't. And thus, Escani is sort of the one remaining vestige of, like, I'm going to do something really unfair this game, and it's called Grandmaster Mother Escani.
Well, I also think Mother Escani plays very nice with Shao Lao as well, giving you 2 3-cost copies of the Shao Lao in the world.
Someone did that to me, and it was so bad.
Well, because Hella's +2 now.
No, but like they played 2 Show Laos, and it was just like, that was embarrassing.
Well,
It's just awful.
one other thing that I do want to point out, which is why I actually do think Mother Escani is as strong as Shao, if not stronger, is because Mother Escani, Shao was the best version of Shao, I think, was Shao-Casta. And that deck succeeded, I think, partially because A, it had a backup plan if it didn't draw Shao, and B, as well, there was multiple ways to win. You could Shao a Scarlet Spider, you could Shao a Maverick. You had all these kind of different ways to play around with the Shao buff. So it was like, you don't really have any low rolls.
Yeah.
I compare that to a lot of the Surfer deck of today.
Calling it hold on, we're going to call it what it is, which is Captain Carter combo. We are not calling that a Surfer deck.
It's making a Maverick deck. That's what
we're calling it Captain Carter combo because I need people to figure out how to play that deck correctly. Like, it's actually killing me that like people play that deck and they'll be like, oh, I'm going to play it like a Surfer deck. You can't play it like a Surfer deck. It's not a Surfer deck. It's a Captain Carter combo deck. That's what it is. That's what it does.
But yes, so I think it's very similar to that deck where you have a ton of different lines, a lot of just you're winning in a lot of different ways. It has its win conditions, it has its strong draws, but it's not like necessarily like super duper linear. I relate that a lot to that Shao-Casta deck, but also it just does more points.
It's a very similar position to the Shao-Casta deck, where it is the thing that just does a bunch of points. It does various activate shenanigans with Mavericks. I think it's closer to like the Show ongoing decks, which are just exactly the same Captain Carter Maverick thing that's going on there. But like, yeah, largely the role Shou Lao played later in his life cycle was as a combo deck that just was bigger than all the mid-range decks. And that's kind of the role that the Prodigy, Maverick, Captain Carter stuff is playing right now. And I think that's like a fairly straightforward one-to-one comparison. There is no modern Star-Lord. That just doesn't exist. Yeah. But this stuff is the modern Shou Lao.
Yeah, and I think it's arguably stronger, which is kind of my hot take.
I think that Shou Lao wasn't... I don't know that I would call it arguably stronger. I think it's a lot easier to interact with the Escani stuff. Like, the thing that made Shou Lao so frustrating is you could kind of do everything right in terms of preparing for it, and it just wouldn't matter if they were smart enough about it. Like, you would be like, I'm packing a Cosmic Ghost Rider for the Jocasta, and then they just beat you with whatever they put in third behind the Jocasta and activating it because it doubled Shou Lao's buff, and they didn't need to do any of the other stuff. Like, it was a uniquely invulnerable to tech kind of deck.
See, the other take is I think Star-Lord was Shou Lao's like biggest help as well, because the main thing that at least my highest ranking season ever was the Shao season, because I learned that if you literally just play combo that goes over the top of Shou Lao, i.e. stuff like Man Spider, Shao just can't beat it. Yeah. Shao is a deck that can put I did this when I was in a couple of voice calls coaching some people. Shao is a deck that puts high 30s in 2 lanes. If you can beat that, you can beat Shao. If you can't beat that, you can't beat Shao.
You are correct that Star-Lord put the world's biggest hurt on Man Spider. Just absolutely crushed it out of existence.
Crushed it out of existence. And that was that in that style of deck. Yeah. That like, I'm going to put up a ton of points. Crush. Eliot's back. Oh no.
Star-Lord was an anti-combo deck. It had incredibly punishing matchup against anything that was trying to do a combo thing. And I think it wouldn't be off base to say it protected Shou Lao, because what's supposed to beat Shou Lao is being able to go over the top of it. And if anything you try to play to go over the top of it is like, I lose to 3 Eliaths, you can't play it.
Exactly. And where I'm kind of getting with this as well is Mother Escani decks don't really have that police, but also like they can go tall. Hold on. They don't have the deck policing the meta,
right? Okay,
so that this stuff won't go over the top. But also, like, that deck can go so tall that it can beat some of the mid lines from those combo decks, and that kind of gives it a little bit more game. I think Shou Lao's strength was benefited a lot by the surrounding metagame, whereas Mother Escani isn't necessarily benefiting as much from its surrounding metagame, and it already is, in my opinion, a similar level of strength, which leads me to say I think that the Mother Escani stuff is a little bit stronger.
I think that if Star-Lord existed still, it would be crushing Mother Escani, though, is the thing. Like, if Star-Lord existed still, it would be doing very gross things to these current versions of the deck. They would be like one of those decks where it's like, if I don't Cosmo this read exactly correct on the Star-Lord, I'm in serious trouble here. Like, it would be one of those where it's like, all right, congratulations on your tech. The card Juggernaut exists. So good luck. Like,
I think that it is definitely kind of the inverse to Shao in that sense, although I think the play patterns are similar. They're benefiting from different things. Yeah. Whereas Shao prides itself on being a very uninteractable deck that's putting out solid points, whereas this deck is a deck prides itself on putting out ridiculous points. It can survive interaction. Just a single Shadow King won't beat it in most scenarios, and as well as that, it's just kind of like, if you have Goliath though, then
if you like
Goliath is like, whoa.
The card Juggernaut, things that mess with my cards on the board, like all that stuff, it's like really powerful, but a little bit more fragile than Sholau, which just like you might as well not even try to tech that deck. You just have to beat every other card in the deck. You're not beating the Sholau stuff. Father's Day in this situation refers to Mobius. My decks have trended pretty aggressively towards getting their absolute shit kicked in by Mobius. I'm playing the Sasquatch version of Gambit decks. Like, I'm all in on just like, I'm discounting. I'm in an arms race with all these people who are doing a bunch of points. The interesting thing about, I think, like what you'd say are probably the two best decks in the game, the Carter combo and the Askani V-hand type stuff. Mm-hmm. They are both vulnerable to tech in ways that Sholau and Star-Lord just kind of weren't. Like, they are vulnerable to a card you just put in your deck and you put it on the board and it's like fire and forget. I do not have to think about this. If I play Mobius against someone doing Sasquatch stuff, the game ends. I do not have to think about this. If I play Mobius, even one of the things that I really like about the Carter deck is that it has Hope Summers, so that if you get Mobius, you still get access to your points, because otherwise it would be really touch and go in terms of the access to that guy. And I think that, like, largely one of my big takeaways from the tier list yesterday was it's Mobius time. It's Mobin time. Like, this is... we passed Mother's Day. Now it's Father's Day. Daddy's home. It's time to play a lot of Mobius. Where do you envision that going? Do you think it's a good enough check on this stuff? Because, like, what I've seen that I actually find fairly compelling is I think we both agree that the sort of Blink Star-Lord Surfer decks are second class compared to the Prodigy Ascani type stuff.
Yes.
But what they get to do is play Mobius Killmonger, and thus have really good matchups into the Gambit Sasquatch stuff and really good matchups into the Virus stuff totally randomly. And it's like, oh, that's like a nice thing. I don't have to devote all my stuff to my combo. It's like, it's worse, but like, I get it. It's like, no, that's nice tech. I like it.
Yeah, I think Killmonger is one that I can kind of run with wherever. Like, you can put Killmonger. There's in the Carter combo deck, there is one flex slot, in my opinion. Two, if you don't have Wolverine, I think he is best in slot. But you can reasonably fit two tech cards in that deck. That Surfer / Cosmo, you can put a Killmonger in there. I probably wouldn't put a Mobius in there because your turn 3 is very important.
Yeah, you can't actually play Mobius in that deck, unfortunately.
Yeah. But also, what I want to think about with that V-hand deck is I think that V-hand deck is Mr. Negative wearing a trench coat. The Destroy version specifically, you've got Killmonger Shang. That is Gambit. That's the Destroy package. Sure. You've got Sasquatch. That's your Null. That's like your super high roll. Yeah. And then your V hands is like Gore Mystique. Sure. Like it dies to Mobius.
Yep.
It's got a Destroy package for interaction.
Yep.
It's literally just Mr. Negative.
Yeah.
But it's points this time. So
it's like
good.
if Mr. Negative was functional, you know?
It's
like if it was good. It's like if it was a good deck.
What if Gore and Mystique didn't get nerfed? That's what this deck is. It's just modern negative.
Sure.
Like, I've actually called these builds like Timu negative. This one's Timu negative.
It's like the only deck I can win with recently. I spent a lot of time just like playing all these other decks that I'm like, these are definitely better decks, and I lose, and then I go back to Gambit, 75 Sasquatch points, and I'm just like, yeah, this is where my heart lies. My heart lies in making this Sasquatch hit 17 power for some reason. That's what I want to do, man. I want to play a 17 power Sasquatch. That's like that's the entirety of it. I don't know. I think a lot of the equity that deck gets is because everyone stays because they think you're doing like some normal bullshitty V-hand stuff. They're like, it's fine. This deck doesn't actually have good Escanis, which is mostly true. It actually like, oh yeah, you copied your Gambit. I don't care. I'm like playing Doom 2099. I don't give a shit about your Gambit, right? But if that thing that I copied with it is a Sasquatch, you're dead. You're just actually like every thought process you have about the mediumness of the other 11 cards in the deck is totally out the window if that card is a Sasquatch. And I think that's really where the equity from the deck comes in.
Oh, definitely. If you don't draw the Sasquatch, you're just kind of like dead in the water.
It's so mid. She's such a fraud, dude. I played multiple games where I was like, I have to really math out this final turn against Arishem. It's like it's Arishem. Like that shouldn't have to do this.
You just played like the best copy combo card in a Victoria hand deck, and you're having to math out against Arishem, who like bricked its turn.
I have like 3 V hands in my hand. They're all 8 power, and I'm like, how do I beat a devil dinosaur? Like I don't know how to do it. Like it's so much garbage in that deck, man. Like,
yeah,
the Sasquatch is such a hard carry. If you can get him, he makes everything so much easier. Every other game you play when you're copying like V hand and Gambit, you're just like, where are my points? I have output 40 points in this game of Marvel Snap, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just like having the high roll and stuff like that. That's why I think the Surfer deck is the clear number one. I'd honestly go up as far as to put some of the Virus decks as competing with the V-Hand, especially as we see this large increase in Mobius usage. But I also think that we still haven't necessarily found like the best Mobius decks yet. Like I was playing around with Phantom X earlier with Mobius because I'm like, Phantom X is a deck that'll flex. That's pretty good into Surfer. It's a deck that can run Killmonger very naturally. That's pretty good into Daredevil. And I have one flex slot and I have a couple flex slots for tech. I can run Shadow King and I can run Mobius. Obviously, it's Phantom X, so it's pretty limited in terms of like a point scale. But I didn't hate it. Like I was winning on it like pretty consistently. So I think we're kind of in stage one of kind of Mobius exploration. We know he's good into this meta, but we don't exactly know what the best Mobius deck is.
I was thinking about jamming him in the Aurora Afflict deck, where like the man thing, and I was thinking about cutting Cosmo because it's kind of a terrible Cosmo deck anyway. Like I don't want to cut Cosmo, but you're really bad at using him in that deck, and so it's like, what if I'm just supposed to play Mobius there? I don't know.
I'm also not thinking Cosmo is that strong in this meta as well. Like you got to get it because it's like if you get it down on 3. Then Askani is just going to go in a different
they just play it everywhere else, and you're just like, well, this sucks. This guy's not doing anything.
And then you're just like, oh no, they're going to put a giant thing in my Cosmo lane that I have 0 points in because I played a 3/3.
Yep.
It's like, I would probably rather play Mobius as a 3/3. I think we're going to start seeing a little bit of Cosmo on the way out. I think he's past his time in the limelight.
Now, the virus, as everyone knows, they found it on a cruise ship. The Technoorganic virus has made it to the mainland, to the mainstream. And it is a very interesting group of archetypes where it's like there's not really a lot of settled truths about Technoorganic virus decks and what packages they should be running, other than like Martyr is the sickest card of all time. I love playing Martyr Technoorganic Virus. That's a 1/6. It's the greatest thing ever. You get your Iron Patriot, your Askani Sun, maybe, whatever you're using to capitalize. Maybe there's a Wilson Fisk in there. And then from there, things get really weird. Like, you're playing Stardust, Ares, Cosmic Ghost Rider, and Shadowlands Daredevil, but is playing Shadow King, Cosmo, Mother Escani, Ozymandias. Like, things get very diffuse very quickly. There's other versions. Husky is messing around with Black Swan, Mother Escani, Sage, Hitmonkey. A bunch of just, like, we're going in a very weird space here where there's not really a lot of clear understanding as to like what the best version of this is. So what is your understanding of the archetype and then your take on how to approach building it?
Okay, so I think the core cards to a virus deck, the ones that I've seen like everywhere, obviously need virus. I think Debris, I think Wilson Fisk, and I think you need a discounter. So whether that be Black Swan or Mobius, you could run both, but I would probably reason on running one of the two.
Black Swan gets a little more upside, not just because she's a 2/3, but because you can activate her and then play a virus on her, and her effect will still be on. Just wanted to mention the little tech thing for the viewers.
Yeah, so I think we're going to see two kind of versions of virus spawn. I think the first one is similar to Butts deck, where we're using virus as a way to put out as just one of our main point strategies in a points-based deck. So we're running few tech cards, maybe one or two. Shadow King is the most free include there, I mean, because it doesn't affect your power and it affects your opponent's power. I think that those kind of decks that it's just like, I'm doing points in virus, those decks I think are going to have a place if the Askani stuff does get nerfed, because then it's kind of like, oh, I'm just the tallest deck around now. Like, I'm just doing more points than everybody else. The other, and the one that I'd use for the virus is Shadowlands Daredevil and kind of like a tech package. Just as like, this is my mid-range tech tempo deck. I'm running Ares. You do not have to run Ares. That's just me playing around with a fun card. That's Cope. So I think that the main school of thought that I subscribe to for the virus is I actually favor the tech packages, largely because I think virus is a really good backup points output. In the sense that I mean of like, it's a really good supplementer. Like if it's your game plan number one, I don't necessarily see you winning that many games just because there's always going to be a deck that goes taller than you. And you're just going to be 0% into those decks. However, if you're kind of running this like hybrid over, I am going to run so many tech cards that I have a tech card for each matchup that's really good in each matchup. And I'm just going to supplement that package with a virus that's going to be +3 on all my cards and 2 demons, as well as my scaling 2/9 or 2/11.
It's very like Thanos-ish in essence.
Yes. I honestly think we may. I'm not. If Mind Stone drew 1 cost, I wouldn't even be that opposed to Thanos Virus, but unfortunately it draws stones. So
unfortunately, the card works with itself and not the Technoorganic virus. God. Last up, it's time for Smiz's Soapbox. Take it away, buddy.
Okay, so I think you already saw in the Mother's Day segment that I actually think Mother Escani is a stronger card than Xiao Lao and Star-Lord, and whether you agree with me or not, I think the wide consensus has been that this is a much, much, much better meta than the one we just left. But I agree with that, even though I think Askani is stronger. So I kind of wanted to talk about how strong cards don't necessarily make bad metas. What I think makes bad metas is 2 things: play pattern and applicability. Xiao Lao required a lot from you. Star-Lord required a lot from you. Star-Lord also had a very negative play pattern of you kind of not playing the game for a long time, and your decisions, like you're making like 3 decisions, then you're vomiting out like a ton of points or just shutting off all your opponent's points on the final turn. Not necessarily, there's not a lot of nuance there. There's not a lot of variety. Mother Escani comes in. This is a card you can do a ton of different things with. You can do Surfer things. We've seen Technoorganic Virus things. We've seen V-Hand things. We've seen like random Hitmonkey and Bounce and stuff like that. We've seen so many different decks. We've seen Technoorganic Virus is kind of the one that made this click for me, where it's like, this is not a deck I would be expecting to run Mother Escani. This isn't like necessarily multiplying the output or doing anything, but the fact that it's just such a strong card, I just realized like all of a sudden it just clicked. I was like, this card is like absolutely broken, but the meta's not bad because everything can use it. So I think that what makes a bad meta is when there's like a very select few things that are viable and not necessarily an overwhelmingly strong card in the format.
I buy that. I think there's one other factor that you're ignoring for why people are much more okay with Mother Escani than they were with other cards, and it's that Mother Escani is free. She came in a game mode. Nobody had to pay for her. And, speaking of someone who spent 800 gold on her, that's still way less than a normal card. And I think that, like, that is a lot of why I think if there were the typical season pass dynamics around this card, there would be a lot different reaction to how people perceive it. And, it's good. I think that it's good that, they showed that they don't, like, gate power behind season passes. This is, like, the least valuable card to have be strong. And they were like, yeah, sure, whatever. Let's make it really good. Whatever. I don't know. Like, it's interesting. I do think that has helped people feel better about this metagame. I do think that, like, I've been playing a lot more games where my positioning matters and my point output matters. And it's not just like, I did my thing, the game's over, right? There's a lot less of that now. A lot more like close games where it's like, oh, if I'd positioned differently, I could have won. I do think that Marvel Snap is better when there is a higher emphasis on that. I think that the one thing about Escani that I don't like is that the information is hidden. What they're copying is not something that you can reasonably understand or play around. And it's like, I do think that, like, if there is a negative thing about that, that is the negative part of the play pattern, where it's just like, well, didn't know I was getting beat to death by 15 Sasquatches today, but I guess I am. My bad, right? Like, that level of additional unpredictability, I think, if there's anything that we've learned from Marvel Snap, is that, like, players really don't like when it's just like, how was I supposed to know? Like, that was the big thing they like a certain segment of players really disliked about Arishem. It's like, how was I supposed to know you were going to do that? Like, what are we talking about here? And I do think she has a little bit of how was I supposed to know in her, even if it is managed.
Yeah, I think that how am I supposed to know stuff is definitely also one of the reasons why the card is so strong, just because it has, like, if Mother Escani showed you the card she was copying, that V-hand deck would be awful. They're like, oh, I know you have Sasquatch, so I'm hitting the retreat button.
I'm leaving.
Now.
I'm out of here.
It's like you can't even have these turn 6 surprises if you don't have it. Yep. So I agree that it is, like, a slight negative in terms of, like, the health of the meta. I personally enjoy it because it lets you just copy some stupid Escani.
Sure, yeah, like, it lets me win games. I love it, right?
So I enjoy it, but I understand that I may be in the minority on that. Overall, though, I think that just having a meta where a lot more things are playable and a card that can fit into so many things that, like, you can put a Escani in your pet deck. Like, it's probably just gonna work.
Probably good, yeah.
Like, even just put it in destroy. Sometimes you get 2 deaths. Whoa, there we go. Then we're winning. I don't have Moira, but I have this card because I don't want to spend 6k tokens on Moira. I also think that the free thing is also, it's very easily accessible, although I do think that it being specifically a game mode card may take a turn. For example, Johnny Snap comes back in a week. All of a sudden, like, they can't get Mother Escani, and the best card in the game by far, they just can't get. And they're just, like, behind on everything.
It's bad monetization, let me put it that way. They should make a bundle and just put it in the store for 3 weeks. Just be like, here, $30, Mother Escani variant. It's there if you want it. Like, that would be how they would make money on this, I think. All right. That is it from me and Smiz, a.k.a. Smiles, a.k.a. Smacks. It is time for us to depart. But before we do, Smiz, take us out and tell them where they can find you.
All right. You can find me right down below at Snap Academy YT. I'll try to be posting weekly or multiple times per week in the coming months. You can find just, like, deck guides, LTM guides, and just generally me talking about the game from a lot of the similar perspectives that you saw me talk about it here. But yeah, I've been not Lambie Series. Yep. He's been KMBest. And we'll see you next time.
Can I just say something before we leave? Is that, like, Snap Academy YT, it looks like it says Snap Academy.